for me to join the students, because they are the future of India. So basically, if you see that we have a vision, our company is having a vision called Safer India, Better World. So when we move with such a vision in the world of consulting, training, and products for safety, so you can see the kind of responsibility I'm carrying on my shoulders. And this particular lecture is also a part of the same, because when we connect with the students, so this means the right people for the future. So if they are mentored properly, so the future of India is great, and the country will go into the right hands. So this is important, one thing. So secondly, our company name is TSM TheSafetyMaster Private Limited, and we have three brands. First one is The Safety Master, which is into consulting. Second one is The Safety Guru, which is onto the online training. And third one is the bookmysafety.com, which is about products. So these are the innovations we have launched recently by taking a benefit of the odd time. So unfortunately, the whole world is going through, coronavirus 19. So I would like to just make a contact with you all. What are the safety precautions during coronavirus 19 before we start the technical session of HAZOP studies? So guys, first of all, thank you once again. And the important part in the coronavirus safety would be to maintain a social distance of 1.5 meters minimum with each other. Use the N95 mask. You can purchase it from various companies like 3M. You can purchase. Secondly, thirdly, you need to, if you have a cough, cold, or any kind of symptoms, so please show it to doctor. It may be a seasonal viral also, not necessarily it is coronavirus issue, but you can show to your doctor and take the medicine. But if it persists for a long time, then you should get the testing for the COVID-19 done for yourself. Um, Make hygiene as a key rule of your life now, like washing the hands properly with the soap number of times as much as you can, and you also have to safeguard the water as well. So accordingly, you can use sanitization process for your hand, but make sure that you are away from the heat source. Then the next part in the coronavirus precautions would be to have awareness with your family, and also with your friends and with your colleagues at institute coronavirus. And I think as long as the vaccine is not developed, I don't see a very regular solution. Only we can have preventive measures. So this is about little bit about coronavirus. Then you can also use sodium hypochlorite solution 5% or 10% maximum concentration for with the area. So 10 times water can be used for one time solution. So this is the methodology you can use. So these are the little bit precautions I can just share with the people today who are attending the session about coronavirus. Okay, now as you see, today your institute has invited me to conduct training on hazard and operability training for UPES students. So I hope this is a curriculum also in your Masters of Technology in Safety, and also sometime I don't know the exact curriculum, but it may be also a part in BTech as well. So HAZOP is an important tool, my friends, for a process industry, especially where you are using chemicals. Either you are manufacturing chemicals, or you are storing chemicals, or you are handling in HAZOP study. Now, some of you may say no. As per Traveler Klex, who was the scientist of HAZOP, he has written a lot of things about HAZOP, and you might have studied. Some of you might have studied. But when I researched this over past 14 to HAZOP, and those of course are not published, but I can share my experience and thoughts with you to validate yourself whether those concepts or the knowledge is perfect or not. So Before we move into the deeper session of HAZOP study, let me just brief you guys about myself. Although Arun has introduced full, and let me just say a little bit about my experience and my life, and why I chose safety as a field for and vision like safer India, better world, to be part of this company. Because I started my career with a group called Vedanta Group, and I was a process engineer there. I worked for 1.5 year, so I faced some safety issues, and I was able to, at that time I never used to follow safety. My bosses used to say me that don't work without safety. But in a young age, when you're passed out from a college and you're an engineer, at that time, in my time in 2005, the safety awareness degree to safety. In my time, the specialized degree was like chemical engineering, masters of engineering in chemical engineering or mechanical engineering. So that was the field of study, core study. So I did my masters of engineering in chemical and joined as a process engineer. But I used to face safety issues. But that was, my personal, because I was not having knowledge. I was not having awareness. So I used to face accidents. So small accidents, bigger accidents. So that made me to think, no, I think when I faced accidents, so this made me to think, no, I think I need to work for safety field. So a person learns in his or her life for two things. One, he experienced the things, and then he learns. Secondly, he follows his guru. So it is better not to face any accident and follow your seniors and education and your professors, what they say about safety. Please follow it, and we are going to develop the culture of India in the coming time. So if you follow safety as a rule number one in your life, so I think you won't be able to face any difficulty. Working with Vedanta Group, I joined Tata Group into the projects, where also I was nominated as a coordinator for safety. Key area I learned for project safety. And so I was not a safety professional. Then I thought, okay, fine, I need to do something in safety. So accordingly, I changed my jobs into safety, work with consulting and process safety management. Then over a period of 15 years, I developed myself while working with various bigger multinationals into corporate profile, into consulting profile, into training profile, and into as a process engineer, as a HAZOP leader. Did a lot of sessions. So by that time, I developed myself as a process safety person or resource. So then I was not finding out a way, how to bring out my ideas into the market, how to bring out my ideas without a stoppage or without any issues into the world. So I can do it by creating a vision of safer India, better world, by launching this company in 2016 December. So now we are 3 years and 4 5 months old, 3.5 years old. So we have 200 clients. We have launched three enterprises into the same company, and we are growing. So so that you can know this journey, how difficult it was, and you can also know this, that what vision we are carrying, and you are also part of the same vision, safer India, better world. Okay, so I think this is sufficient for the part of the introduction, and I will try to move to the next session. So which is a bit of, I'll skip because I have explained uh, all these things. So let's move to the HAZOP study. So what is HAZOP basically? HAZOP is nothing but hazard and operability study, which is carried out to identify hazard chemical industry. First one is hazard related to material, means the chemicals, the material which we are using, known as hazardous chemicals. So first hazard identified is hazard related to chemical. Second hazard related to process conditions like temperature, pressure, all these process conditions. Third hazard is related to equipment in which process and chemicals are contained. They can also create a hazard. So these are the three type of hazard which are created during a highly hazardous chemical process. And HAZOP, if applied properly with the brain, is able to bring out all these three issues into the segmentation and present it to the management for risk management. Okay, so suppose you are a chemical engineer or you are a fire and safety engineer. So you will coordinate and arrange a HAZOP session into the future, or might be arranging. So you will give a report to the management of HAZOP study, and your manager will be responsible to understand that report and take the risk management decisions. Now, what is the risk? Why should I do HAZOP study? Why should a company spend their time into the HAZOP session? Is because of couple of reasons which I can tell. First one is we need to save human lives. The most important asset is human resource into any factory, any workplace. So if human is not safe, this means that company cannot grow, right? So first is safety of the humans, because those humans are making chemicals. Chemicals is not making humans. Number one. Number two, management has put their money into the factory and purchased equipment, purchased material, and they want to make profits. They want to give jobs to people. They have a vision to become number one company into a particular segment. That's why they want to manage that risk. Okay. Third one is environment related issues that can be created. Okay, you can see a lot of things. So by a particular accident, a lot of environmental issues may become a risk to the people. Okay, so human life, business, environment, and finally you can call it as financial. So ultimately management looks at what is my loss. So if HAZOP study shows that the loss is very big in terms of money, so management immediately puts a protection measures. So HAZOP gives you an opportunity to bring out that part and put into the place of your recommendation. So this is the purpose of the HAZOP. Now, to become a HAZOP chairman, basically you need to be experienced about chemical process, knowledgeable about safety, knowledgeable about HAZOP protection to be used. Okay, so all this will make you a experienced HAZOP chairman. If I take a certificate of HAZOP chairman from anywhere, that does not mean I can conduct the HAZOP. HAZOP chairman needs quality. Okay, HAZOP chairman needs to manage the team. So which you will learn during this session. I hope I will session. Arun, I just wanted to check whether you all are able to hear me or not.
Can hear you.
Okay. So the presentation would be that you know about what is HAZOP study, you know about what is HAZOP methodology, you know about HAZOP process, you know about HAZOP base, you know how to document HAZOP study. Now, if we go, now there are two parts of conducting safety into any. First is the system. Okay, so management system. So safety management system. So safety management system in a chemical industry would be process safety management. Okay, so that is the system. So process safety management according to OSHA 1910.119 is having 14 elements. But as per Center of Chemical Process Safety, they have 18 to 20 elements. But as per TSM TheSafetyMaster Private Limited, we have also our own element called as 20 to 23 elements depending on the client's requirement. So the first part is process safety culture, second part is hazard and risk management, third part is your trainings management, employee capability management, the fourth part is risk assurance. All these makes you and the culture. So where does HAZOP come into process safety management? In process safety management, HAZOP comes under PHA, process hazard analysis. You got my point? Do not mislead yourself that HAZOP can in right culture has not come yet. HAZOP, when people say that I have done the HAZOP, they understand that the safety is done. No. You need to do PHA, process hazard analysis. And HAZOP is the only one tool under PHA. So today we are going to cover HAZOP under PHA, and PHA is under the tree of TSM. So this is called system. So the system is perfect. So this means we can run the things better. Okay. Now under the system, it comes the technical management. So which is some element is called HAZOP. So today you will learn that technical management. Then third is the culture part. So what is culture? Culture is that if you do HAZOP as a safety manager with the team and your management has approved your HAZOP report, then culture would be how you make that HAZOP study report recommendation, knowledge, and as well as the report's main reaching to the worker level, to the contractor level. That is called culture. Culture is nothing. Culture is ensuring safety knowledge reaches, people. So culture is related to people. Okay, culture is related to you and me, how we behave. This is called culture. Okay, like if you see the latest example in culture is COVID-19. Why people change their behavior as soon as they got to know about coronavirus? Why suddenly in India people are following hygiene? Why in India suddenly people are following law? Why they are following lockdown? This is about culture. This is okay. So now we are into the COVID-19 preventive measure culture. Similarly, for HAZOP, you need to ensure that your responsibility does not end when you are, ending the HAZOP study. There, not when your HAZOP study recommendation reaches the contractor worker in form of the area hazard, area process hazard, area process risk, then it means as a good safety manager, you are reaching the level of culture. Okay, and you are completing your responsibility. Am I right or wrong? Can you, Arun? Can you open the session for the discussion if you don't mind? Is it possible? Is it possible, Arun?
Hello. So I have enabled your video, so you can use your.
Okay. So no, no, just audio discussion. I'm saying. Can you open it for a
Yeah, audio.
discussion,
Yeah,
please, so a
audio.
person can
Okay,
ask
sir.
question.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
So a person will name and ask question one by one. So I will allow total 3 questions before we move to the HAZOP technical. So question one, please ask. Anybody has a question, please? So I see one question in the chat box, which is it's saying audible. No, it's not a question actually. Anyways, if you guys don't have any question, yeah, please ask the question.
Sir, Prashant Singh this side.
John, good morning.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, Prashant, you're audible. Please ask your question.
Okay. Good morning, sir. Sir, under PHA,
Good
you said that we have only one methodology to identify the hazard, that is HAZOP. So, why we don't have any other, I mean, methodologies in relation to HAZOP?
Your question is not clear, bit not clear. Rethink on your question and then ask me. I am unable to understand. So I
Sir,
would take next question, Prashant, and then you think once again and then ask again. Okay. Part of safety management system. Safety culture is not part of the safety management system. Safety culture gets developed by implementing a world-class safety management system. So input, safety culture is a outcome. Next question. Yeah, Prashant, is it clear? Your question is clear. You can ask again. Prashant.
sir, I just wanted to ask this that under PHA, do we have any other methodologies to identify the hazard other than HAZOP, and if not, why it is?
Okay. Yes. You now I understand your question. So to identify hazards with respect to you know uh, and rules. So the first one is the hazard. The second one is the consequence analysis. Third one is the hazard evaluation. So basically, HAZOP does the hazard evaluation and qualitative risk calculation. So into hazard. Okay. So HAZOP takes the hazard input, takes the consequence analysis inputs, and then does the hazard evaluation up to the recommendations. Okay, so this is the flow or the correlation between that. If you straightforward take HAZOP as a separate subject or a separate study, then it will not be fruitful. This is what I was saying. So in India, we need to bring a culture that instead of doing a separate HAZOP, let's do PHA. This is what I'm saying. So HAZOP without PHA is not complete. Okay, any other questions, please? No problem. So let's move next to the session. What is HAZOP? As I explained, HAZOP is a tool to identify potential issues. Okay, it is a systematic, rigorous examination to tell you that what are the issues in process and engineering area. It is also qualitative technique to combine the guide words, standard guide words, with the process parameters and understand what is the deviation. So deviation means what is the problem, what can be the scenario, what can go wrong. Okay, you can call it as a hazardous event also, you can call it as a scenario also. Okay, then HAZOP is also able to bring out the impacts, the qualitative impacts like the consequences. Okay, it can also tell you whether your existing safeguards are sufficient or not. If they are not sufficient, then what is required to be done into the HAZOP. So basically, it is bringing out your hazards, it is bringing out your consequences, it is bringing out your existing safeguards, it is bringing out whether they are sufficient or not, and it is giving you recommendations also. So basically, it is a win-win situation for hazard and operations, both issues. So it brings out the both issues. Okay, so this is about HAZOP study. Okay, what is the main purpose of the HAZOP? So the main purpose of the HAZOP is that when we design a plant, then we do a conceptual study before the design. So into the project management cycle, we do conceptual study to see that whether this plant is feasible or not, whether we can produce this product or not. This is the basic intent of that conceptual study. So during that stage only, we try to do preliminary hazard review, maybe by some checklist method. So people generally call it as hazard review. So it is called as PHR, preliminary hazard review. So it is a checklist based method. But when design is done, you have put the design, then you see that okay, now process parameters are there. So what can go wrong? So that is basically brought out by a HAZOP study. So it tries to find out the deviations from the design intent that may go wrong. For example, if a tank has to be filled by a centrifugal pump at a flow rate of 4 meter cube per hour, so or 400 meter cube per hour, so how much time it will take? It is a design. Now suppose there is a 10% positive or 10% minus. There is a change into the capacity of the pump while into the operation. Then what will happen? What will happen to the reactor? What will happen to the pipeline? What will happen to the chemical nature? What kind of scenario will be created if the flow is less or more? This is what HAZOP does. So it combines guide word with the parameter and tries to see the deviations. Now HAZOP, as I said, into the project management life cycle, HAZOP comes at a design stage, and that is the right place HAZOP needs to be done as part of the PHA program. But sometimes design is put into the place, construction is done, commissioning is done, and the plant is into the operation. So after 1 year, after 2 years, after 3 years, a lot of modifications are being done. Pipe is rerouted. Some equipments, the capacity of the equipment is made less, or double tanks are put into the place. So the design is changed. So what changes with the design change? The hazard changes. Okay. Even during the operation, sometimes chemical A is being used with a particular concentration of 36%, and then the management decides, okay, now we need to produce a new product with some little changes in the chemistry. So they said, okay, we don't use 36% material, we use, let's say, 20%. So the hazard of the material changes. So when we go into the operation after 1 year, 2 year, due to human nature, due to human error, the hazard of the material, the hazard of the process, and the hazard of the equipment may change. This is why into the operation also HAZOP is done. Okay. Into the PHA world, we call it as OPHR. What we call it as? OPHR, Operating Plant Hazard Review. So I have told you three concepts. One is the hazard, which is done into preliminary hazard review, which is PHR. It is done at a feasibility stage of the project. Then second is, I told you, DHR, design hazard review. Then third I am telling you is OPHR, operating plant hazard review. You can note down these concepts. Bit new into the market. So this is the stage wise concept of the HAZOP or a complete PHR program. Now let's take DHR, design hazard review. Now Prashant was asking, okay sir, how HAZOP is different from PHA? Now PHA will ask you to also review your inherent safety review, inherent safer review. So that is also done at DHR and OPHR. So if you combined ISPR with DHR, it becomes a part of PHA program. So PHA is basically a system, and HAZOP is a tool under that system. And under PHA there are 8 to 10 tools, and every tool has their own significance. So if you combine all the tools, it becomes a PHA. So not necessary that at a stage of DHR or at a stage of PHR, complete PHA is applicable. Maybe 6 tools are applicable, maybe 8 tools are applicable, maybe only HAZOP is applicable. This depends on to the process. This depends on to the requirement. This depends on to the design. This is difference between a PHA program and a simple HAZOP. So today the lecture is HAZOP tool as a part of the PHA program. So you need to learn the complete PHA, then you need to learn 8 to 10 tools. Okay, so HAZOP is the only tool. So by the end of the presentation, you will understand the difference. So I go to the next slide. What is the design intent? Sorry, what is the design intent? So can we open the discussion here, Arun? Design intent.
Again, your mic is on. You can use your mic.
Okay, guys, I want to ask
Uh,
maybe one or two students from you. What is design intent? Can you just give me one example?
so every product is designed for a particular job, means to satisfy a particular condition. I mean, for example, if we are installing a 4 dia pipe to transfer a liquid from one place to another, it has an intent to transfer that liquid. Okay.
Perfect.
Deviation means,
Perfect
I
example.
mean, yes.
Perfect example. You have not named yourself. I'm sorry. Can you tell me your
Prashant, sir,
name?
Prashant.
Prashant. See, Prashant, perfect example. Let's look at the larger picture. So जब एक मैनेजमेंट एक प्लांट लगाती है तो वो ये सोचती है मेरा डिजाइन इंटेंट क्या है भाई, मैनेजमेंट लेवल पे बोल रहा हूं मैं। तो मैनेजमेंट ये बोलते ठीक है मुझे 10 टन का प्लांट लगाना है, ये मेरा डिजाइन इंटेंट है। समझ रहे हो कि नहीं? तो और फिर हम जाते हैं मैनेजर के पास। तो डिफरेंट डिफरेंट डिपार्टमेंट्स के डिफरेंट डिफरेंट मैनेजर्स होंगे। तो एक डिपार्टमेंट का मैनेजर बोलेगा कि ठीक है मेरे प्लांट में इवेपोरेशन तो मे बी इवेपोरेशन यू नो तो वो बोलेगा मेरा डिजाइन इंटेंट ये है। तो सबका डिजाइन इंटेंट डिफरेंट हो गया है ना, ठीक है। सो इनको बोलते हैं नोड्स। क्या बोलते हैं? नोड्स। सो द कंप्लीट प्लांट हैज वन डिजाइन इंटेंट एंड इट इज divided into different areas. So as Prashant told, Prashant has gone to an area which is called as a component of the process. So a component of the process has a design intent. So when we do a HAZOP study, we divide the whole process into small components which are called nodes. So we need to define the nodes. For each node we need to define the design intent. So this is the first part of the HAZOP study. Okay, so the design intent, as one of the student told, that it can be a flow rate from a pipeline diameter from 4-inch diameter or from 2-inch diameter, or some other area. So that can be design intent. Or mixing in a reactor at rpm of, let's say, 60 rpm, or let's say 100 rpm. This may be the design intent. So when we write the design intent, then then the engineers start identifying the deviations from that design intent. Now give me an example. Can anybody speak, please? What would be the deviation? Okay, I asked the question, what would be the deviation? Can you give me an example? Give me the example, what would be the deviation?
Sir, if we have
The
designed a
monitor.
rotary to rotate at an RPM of 150 and it is rotating at a speed of
Yeah,
120, then there is a deviation of 30 RPM.
right.
That is called deviation.
Okay, good. Perfect. But how do we decide, guys, that how do we decide what would be less, what would be more? Do you have any fundamental behind this?
So there
We
will
say that it is
Shan-
this much is less, this much is more.
good morning, sir. This is Shannon D'Souza here. So
Yeah, good
basically,
morning.
there will be a specified guideline by the company that is providing the operation. So
Right.
basically, if they say like a pump has to move at 40 RPM, and if it's
Hmm.
moving at 60 or 20, so we can specify whether it's more or less related to that.
Perfect, perfect. So guys, it is a very good example. What is your name?
Uh, Shannon D'Souza, sir.
What is your name? Right, right, Mr. D'Souza. So you have given the right example. See, when we design the plant, so in during the design, the designers give you operating limits. So there are two type of operating limits, high limit and low limit. So the percentage is decided by the design team. Okay, the people who are designing that technology, they decide what is the operating limit, upper and lower. Okay, which is called high operating limit and lower operating limit into that particular node. Okay, whether it is a tank, it is a RPM, it is a process, or it is a volume, or it is a level, whatever. So whatever is the process, another is called low limit. When when your when your uh, when your analysis go beyond this high and low limit, it is called deviation. What it is called? Deviation. Deviation from the operating limit, upper operating limit and lower operating limit. Whenever a deviation will occur, there is a chance that there is a hazard of material, there is a hazard of the process, there is a hazard of the equipment. Let me give you example. Hazard of the material. Okay, so if the deviation goes upper, the material may leak. If it is let's say toluene, so it may catch fire, so it is called hazard of the material. Okay, if you are talking about the hazard of the process, then suppose you are operating at a temperature of 100 degree already, and it goes up to 120 degree, or whichever range. Let me just give you example. So what would be the impact of that process? You need to think whether the environment will be hot, or it may create boiling liquid, expanding vapor, explosion. What would be the impact? That we need to see. Third is the hazard of the equipment. So some equipment may fail, some instrument may fail. So with that we also need to see. So three kind of conditions we need to see whenever there is a deviation into that node. Is that clear? I hope so. So once we are clear with this, we are able to move forward. Okay. So this is about design, you know, okay, how a design intent is defined and how deviation can occur. So okay, I will leave all these things, which is a theory, and I think I have explained you very well into my So types of hazard analysis. What are the different tools for HAZOP? So first is the preliminary HAZOP, which is done at the conceptual stage. You write down, guys, if you have. Second one would be the design hazard review. Third one would be operating plant commissioning, PSSR, pre-startup safety review. This is also part of hazard review only. Is operating plant hazard review. Okay. Then fifth one is shutdowns or startups after long shutdown, like the COVID. Why has happened? Because people have not done the proper hazard review after a long shutdown. This is the only reason I can see preliminary. Okay, preliminary I'm saying. I'm not commenting on any kind of report, but preliminary I can see. But there may be some other hidden reason also. Some human error can also happen. So these kind of hazard review at different project management cycle of a process needs to be carried out. Then we have electrical hazard review. I am not expert into electrical hazard review, which is a separate tool. It is also called as HAZOP. Okay, electrical HAZOP, which is done by electrical, but the principle remains same. Principle remains same. I am not an expert on electrical safety, so I may not do it. But the HAZOP chairman can facilitate that session of electrical HAZOP. Okay, then some people on who are instrument engineers, they carry out control system HAZOP, loop, hazard review during the loop testing and all other stuff during the design stage. So they can do those things. But the principle remains same. What are standards with respect to HAZOP? So it is called IEC 61882 Hazard and Operability Standard Application Guide. Or you refer Trevor Klett's, also the book for Trevor Klett's, doing for HAZOP study. You can refer it. Now, how HAZOP is done? Let me explain. So there is a and so this is the node they are taking. How to decide the node? Basically, according to my experience, the node is decided whenever there is an isolation of the process parameter, whenever there is an isolation of the equipment, or whenever there is an isolation of the line size. Okay, even if the material change, okay, different node. For example, there is a pump. No change in the material, it remains the same node. There is a different node into it. But as soon as you see that the chemical entering before to the tank is a change into the operating parameter by any utility mechanism, then you need to take the tank as a separate node so that you can identify what is the hazard of the process, because the process condition might have changed. So in short, if I say, whenever there is a change into the hazard of the material by change of the material, whenever there is a change of the process conditions, whenever there is a change of the equipment sizing, okay, or the pipe sizing, hazard may change and you may like to review. So accordingly you have to mark the notes. Now what are the guide words? What are the after the node, the design intent is written. After the design intent, parameter is selected. Parameter, suppose there is a pipeline, so the parameter may be temperature and flow. Okay, if it is a pump and a pipeline, temperature is ambient, so it can be flow, it can be pressure. So accordingly, the right parameter has to be combined with the guide word to produce a deviation. Let's say the guide word is less. So if you combine it with the flow rate, it becomes less flow than the designed value. So this is a deviation. What will happen? What will go wrong? We need to think. What would be the consequence of that deviation? We need to write down. What is the correction? So are there any safeguards? We need to write down. Are there preventive safeguards that it does not happen, the pump gets stopped? There is a sensor, there is an alarm. What is that? What are the layer of prevention? What are the layer of protection? Are they sufficient? Okay, if they are not sufficient, what would be the recommendation? So this is bit theory about the HAZOP study, and I think you can understand that. Any questions here? Arun, can you open the session for the questions along with the same, so that the people
Okay,
understand
sir.
the concept?
Correct. So, okay, your mic is open. You can use it.
Students, if you have any kind of question, please ask me. If I am able to answer, I will answer it here itself. If I am not able to answer, you can contact me later also. Okay, Arun, I don't see
So,
any question here. Yeah, please ask.
so
Tell
Prashant
me
this
your name
side.
and ask.
So
Okay,
do we, Prashant sir, Prashant. So do we have limited guide words, predefined limited guide words, or we can add or we can improvise our guide words according to our situation or condition?
it is a very beautiful question. Wonderful question, Prashant. I must appreciate your thought process. You're going into the right direction of training. I must congratulate you for this. See, in this age, if you are thinking like this, then I think in the future you can be a very good safety manager. Very good safety manager. See, in my experience, the standard which I shown you, they have a listed guide words. Okay, okay, but they have public guide words. But suppose a condition arises and your mind says, then your team needs to validate that. Your team, the HAZOP team, needs to validate that. Teamwork basically. Suppose your team says and agrees, okay, into the current table of the guide words, we are not finding any solution. So you can think on something, but it should be valid. It should be independent guide word, which can be correlated and combined with your process parameter, and a deviation can be validated. The design deviation can be validated. Then of course you can choose it. Otherwise, I don't. So I think into the literature, if I will show you, will try to show you, and I think those are sufficient in my experience. Seeking additional than that, but still, HAZOP is nothing like you change it. Okay, so let's move to the next. So what are the documents, guys, required for? Require just a process flow sheet, a simple diagram, a little bit description of the process of the chemistry. For design related HAZOP, which is called as DHR and PHR. So for design HAZOP, you need PNID, a proper PNID, you need process calculation, you need cause and effect diagrams, you need instrument data sheet, you need interlocks, details, you need layouts, maybe you need as a recommendation also. You may need a detailed process SOP. This is what you need. HAZOP process, what are the HAZOP process sections? So first is the node, defining and marking the node. Second is the defining the design intent. Third is listing down the deviation. Fourth is listing down, for each deviation you need to write down the causes. So there may be 2 causes, there may be 3 causes. For each cause you need to write down the consequence separately. So it is called as cause consequence pairing. So in one deviation there may be 3 causes and there may be 3 consequences. There may be all the 3 consequences may be the same, all the 3 consequences may be different. Okay, so that is a combo. For each consequence you need to evaluate existing safeguard. Existing safeguards may be similar, same, or it may be different. Okay. Then you need to also define whether the safeguards are sufficient or not, and you need to put down the action. So this is basically the process of the HAZOP. What are the guide words? So first is more than, second is other than. Okay, so more than is, example is, there is a percentage of particular chemical which we need to put. So if you put more than that, it is, it is definitely going to create a problem. Then other than, if you put a different material, then it is other than, or you start different equipment, it can be other than. Okay, so similarly, there are different causes: equipment failure, control failure, human error, process condition failure, external events. So the type of the causes can be primary, which are directly related to the process. It can be secondary. So you can explain it basically into the causes column. Okay. Now there is an interrelation between whichever node we are analyzing. There may be, I think, multiple causes. Okay, but the cause for a failure for a particular node will be before that particular node, before that particular section, and the consequences will be either on that particular node or forward into the forward node. This is the thumb rule of the HAZOP. So if you keep this thumb rule, then you won't and right consequences. For example, a chemical is flowing, okay, into a pipeline by a pump, by a diaphragm pump. Okay, so the flow rate is fixed. So the cause will be before the section the chemical goes into a next section, the cause will exist from that isolation point, and the consequence may exist on that pipeline and to that tank. This is what I am trying to say. Consequence will not happen previous. Consequence will only happen afterwards or onto that section. This is the thumb rule basically. Okay, so every tool has certain rules, so you need to take these rules also. So this is a simple sheets. You can expand it little bit more, you can add so you can expand your HAZOP sheet according to your requirements. Now, HAZOP study can be done during normal operation, during management of change. When you apply a management of change, you need to do HAZOP. You need, if you are changing any plant materials, equipments or processes or instrumentation, you can do a HAZOP on that section and update your report. Okay. So these are the certain aspects where you can, do the HAZOP study. So now when comes as a HAZOP team, so in HAZOP team, basically there are two different segments. One is the HAZOP leader and second one is the HAZOP scribe. So HAZOP leader has a different quality and scribe has a different. Safety cannot be a HAZOP leader. It's not like that. But for HAZOP leader, you need a sufficient experience. You need sufficient leadership quality. Okay, you need the sufficient leadership management qualities of the team. Second portion is the scribe. The quality of the scribe is that he should be a technical person. He should be able to understand the discussion. He should be able to, note down that discussion into summary and record the thing. So these are the qualities for a scribe. Both roles are different. In India, the culture is not that mature to have different manpower for these things. Sometime only HAZOP chairman comes, sometime a junior person comes and does the HAZOP. I mean, it is a mix according to my experience. Okay. Second thing, the team. So the team is from the product. It is a different thing. Choosing a team will be a different thing. You have to choose the team carefully. And as per my experience into Europe, I saw that they invite the team members according to the requirement, but they inform that team member well in advance. Okay, on so and so date, you his job and goes, or he comes for 2 hours, but it is very well planned. The timing and the discipline is very well planned into HAZOP. Other operationally, up to 4 hours you can do HAZOP in a day. Not necessarily you do it for a whole day. But due to commercialization, we intend to do it up to 6 hours. So that's how it is. We are moving with the theme and the structure. What are the contents of the HAZOP study report? So it is in front of the slide. I think you can read it. Okay, so I think it contains your everything. Okay. You can choose likelihood. So probably for most of the components, the data has been written into the books, and you can choose the probability accordingly. Otherwise, you can also take the safety data from the company for severity or for likelihood. Okay. Otherwise, if you want to go quantitatively, then you have to do assessment and layer of protection if you want to be very specific, which is done into refineries also, or a particular hazardous chemical plant. A separate QRA and a layer LOPA is done. Then inputs are taken into the HAZOP. So I think I am able to finish my 1 hour session. I am open for the questions now for 15 minutes.
Okay, so you can either use your chat box or you can use your mic to raise your questions. Sir, I think there are two questions other in the chat box.
Yeah, so I will take that. One is from Srinivas, another one is from Ujjwal. Okay, and Shivam, I think I have answered. Arun, okay. So the question from Srinivas is how to decide the safeguards for lack of containment hazard, like this control loops in case of a pipeline rupture. It is a very good question. He is trying to say how to decide the safeguards for loss of containment. I think not lack of containment, it should be loss of containment hazard. Okay, guys, see, when you see containment is there, let's say a large tank for a particular chemical, a hazardous chemical, so it has a lower limit and high limit and low limit. So alarm comes over there. So that's the first. Second is your admin controls. Okay, if there is a high limit, your person can go and shut off. Third is the automation. So there are level controllers and automatically pump can shut down, which is you are calling as sys. Fourth is the dikes. So the dike has to be designed 120% of the tank capacity for one worst credible scenario. So accordingly you can design your dike. So I think these are the particular layers of protection you can decide, okay, for a particular loss of containment time. I hope I have answered your question. The next question is from Ujjwal Gupta. Sir, can the HAZOP format sheet be updated to our need or to the process that we are doing HAZOP for? No. Ujjwal, one traditional format I have shown you, and another format, advanced format, I can send to Arun by mail, so he can serve. So that particular format I think is the latest according to my experience. Maybe in the market you can find more, but do not try to modify the formats because they cannot be modified according to your needs and whenever it required. It is an expert format basically, so please use the latest one. Any other questions? An operator for doing the HAZOP study, for that. So if there is a manual operator who does the start and stop process or maintain the process, of course he needs to be invited. What is the okay? It's a good question. When you do a preliminary hazard review, it's one time. When you do a design hazard review, it is one time. Then when you come to OPHR, operating plant hazard review, then your DHR is your OPHR initially. Then after every 3 years, you need to revise the complete HAZOP. Okay. If in 3 years there is some modification, then you need to apply management of change format. And if in management of change format you feel that HAZOP needs to be carried out, it needs to be done. Yes. The next question from Shivam is how to do HAZOP for utility line and underground line. It's a very good question. HAZOP can be applied to both. The only thing is the controls and the hazards will be different. Suppose you are doing HAZOP for water, okay, or a treatment plant. You can do it, but you have to see what are the materials which are hazardous, what are the process conditions which are hazardous. Things remain the same. The concept remains the same. You can do it. Next question. PSSR is part of HAZOP. No, PSSR is not part of HAZOP. As I told you, preliminary hazard review, design hazard review, PSSR, HAZOP study, inherent safer process review, facility siting review, consequence modeling, these are all part of PHA program. The inputs of various things are collected into the HAZOP as a systematic part. Okay. PSSR is done on commissioning. Next question, please. Next question. So I think Arun, I think I have tried answering everyone. So over to you.
Okay, so we hope that there are no further questions. So thank you, sir. Thank you for sparing time with us and educating our student on the HAZOP. Okay, I think that you have laid a wonderful foundation so that our students can build their knowledge, okay, on hazard as well as PH.
Perfect.
Okay.
So
thank
in
you,
the
sir.
closing, I wish to thank all the students. In the closing, I wish to thank all the professors. I wish to thank you. I wish to thank Professor Yadav, whom I am interacting. I wish to thank your management. I wish to thank everyone into the team. And I would like to request you that our vision of TSM the Safety Master Private Limited is safer India, better world. Please spread this vision. Please share, like, follow our social media pages. I will be really thankful and glad to you. And rest I can speak to you separately.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. So participants, we will be winding up today's session. So thanks for attending the session.
Right. Thank you.